Welcome to Real Estate Real Talk with me, Skyleigh. I'm a realtor, coach, and founder of Forever Kamloops and Forever Florida Real Estate Groups and the creator of Elevation Real Estate, the realtor coaching platform. After nearly a decade in this industry, I've built a business that gives me more freedom, more income, and more time with the people I love. And now I'm here to help other realtors do the same. This podcast is for agents who want to build a thriving real estate business without burning out. We talk about scaling smart and building systems so you can buy back your life, because life shouldn't feel like all work and no play. And if you're a buyer or seller tuning in, consider this your backstage pass. You'll hear unfiltered conversations with top agents and industry pros, giving you the same insights we share behind closed doors. Knowledge is power, and the more you know, the better you can advocate for yourself and work with someone who truly has your back. Let's get real. Okay, Alison, thank you so much for coming on the podcast today, and welcome to Real Estate Real Talk. We were just talking about how this business is always pulling wild cards on us, and how I was appreciating how easygoing you are. So thank you for being easygoing, even though, again, I have a kid in the background, but I'm happy that you're here today.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it. And I'm sorry your little man's not feeling well. I'm like, we just got to go with the flow, right? In life and in business, we just got to go with the flow. It's never perfect.
Never perfect. And I think that's one of the beautiful things with this business. I would be so bored if I had to do the same thing every day, all day. I don't know about you.
Yeah. No, it's a large part of why I got out of my first career. I used to do fundraising for private schools, and it's the same cycle and the same patterns year after year. And after 10 years, I was like, okay, I either have to go back out on the road 24/7 and I will have zero family life, or I need to be content doing the same exact thing for another 40 years. I was like, yeah, I'm good. I think it's time to find something new. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. So you were director of development in the private school sector. And was that, because you're in North Carolina, was that also in North Carolina?
No, we were up in Greenwich, Connecticut. So I'm from New Jersey originally, but I started my career in New Jersey. And then my first boss recruited me up to a school in Greenwich, Connecticut. And so I moved up there, and then that's where I met my husband. So I was doing that then. We ended up deciding on Charlotte. I had a job offer for UVA, and that was the point at which it was like, I'm going to be on the road 24/7. And we were married about 6 months, and it just wasn't the life that we wanted. And so I looked at my husband. He was like, I really like Charlottesville. I said, great. I don't want to do this anymore, but I would be thrilled to be out of the Northeast. I don't like cold weather at all. I went to school down south. I went to Vanderbilt, and I loved it and should have never moved back to the Northeast afterwards. And so I was ecstatic. He was like, all right, let's do it. So we literally went and just spent long weekends. I came up with a list of 10 cities I would live in the Southeast, and we went and did long weekends. And Charlotte was the third place we came to. And we both just looked at each other on the way home and we're like, that's it. That felt like home. And so about 6 months later, we transferred with his job. I got my real estate license, and we were off to the races.
Oh my God, amazing. So how long have you lived in Charlotte now?
We just entered our 10th year here.
Oh my gosh, amazing. I love that you were able to like sample different spots before fully deciding. Yeah, that's amazing.
I wanted to make sure he had a good sense of what things were. One of the greatest things I did when I was in college is I traveled all over the Southeast. Wherever I had friends that had parents, we'd go, we'd do a road trip, we'd visit them. Our football team was not good then as it is now. Yay, go Doors. But so we used to go to the games. So we did road trips all over because I had never seen the Southeast until I went to school. And so I had a really good understanding of it. And then in my first career, when I was doing major gifts, the Southeast was a large part of my region. So I did some travel down there with that as well. And so I had a good handle already. My husband had spent some time down here, but not much. So it was really more of, I'm fine with any of these places, but let's see where it feels like home.
Yeah, moving is a lot of work, and I think it's very smart for you to have done it that way. And obviously now being in real estate too, you can be like, hey, this is what we did. These are the things you need to look for. This is what you need to check out, all that stuff. I'm excited to dive into our conversation because you are the owner broker of Lodestone Real Estate, powered by EXP.
Yes.
And you also have a background for like home flipping. Oh, see, now child. Yes, sir.
That's all right.
I'll fix it after.
Because
In a minute, yeah.
no, it actually spilled.
I'm recording. Do you want to be on YouTube?
Do you want to come be on YouTube? No.
I am excited for our conversation because you are the owner broker of Lodestone Real Estate powered by eXp Realty. And then you also have a background for flipping homes. And I also have flipped a handful of houses. So I think this is going to be
I love
fun to
that.
talk about. But before we kind of dive into the fun hobby of like flipping and all of that stuff, I'm curious what got you into like owner broker world. I have considered doing the like owner broker thing and I segued away from it, but I'm curious to know, do you love it? Do you feel like a broker was like meant for you? Tell me about that.
I absolutely love what I do. For me, it was a natural next step. I was burnout. By the time I got into this business, I was completely burnout. And I joined Lodestone as an agent on the team. And the owner at the time, I just said, listen, I just want to be a cog in the wheel. You just tell me what to do. I'm going to go do it. I'm going to do my thing, but give me the magic sauce and we're going to do this. And she laughed at me and she was like, all right, you do your thing, right? And I spent the first year learning the business. It's real estate is very different in the Southeast than it is in the Northeast. The process is completely different. So it took me some time to get used to that. And then year two kept growing and feeling like, all right, now I'm feeling good about this. I'm excited. I'm re-energized. I'm ready to go. And then at that point in time, she approached me about buying the team because she was at a point, her own turning point, where she wanted to go ahead and start a coaching program and expand it out from what she had already been doing in our market center there. And I'm pretty sure everyone in the world around us thought we were both absolutely insane. We probably thought we were too from time to time. It just, something about it just seemed right. And I'm so glad I did it. It's insane to think that was 7 years ago. And the biggest thing for me in this career was making sure that I really enjoy the people I work with. I didn't want to work with people I don't enjoy spending time with because we do spend so much of our time in work. And the other thing for me was making sure that I left the industry better than where I found it. And so that's been my driving force behind remaining an owner, is just having the freedom and flexibility to run my business the way I want it to be run. I run my team very differently than most people do. Again, most people think I'm crazy. I'm just used to that statement now. And I just laugh and I'm like, if you don't think I'm crazy, then I'm probably doing something wrong. But my agents come on, they're a true team member for 18 to 24 months. And then we've set up some different lanes for them to quote unquote graduate into, where they can still use the Lodestone brand. They're still part of the team, but they're really running their own business. I do a lot of financial literacy training with my agents. I do a lot of business planning and a lot of kind of long-term goal setting with them. I want them to look at this as a career and as themselves as a business owner, not I'm a realtor, I sell houses. It's so much more than that. And as part of EXP, you have so many different lanes you can expand into. So to me, it gives me the flexibility to share that knowledge with people and give them the ability to have ownership themselves.
And I love that so much because it is, once you get your license, it's like you just went through 1001 ways not to get sued, but you don't know how to run a business at all.
Exactly.
And you go through this roller coaster of feast or famine with your commission in the first couple years for sure, especially if you don't have your full pipeline and have that trickle. So having somewhere that you can go where you're actually learning the background of what it takes to run a business, I think is so important. And I love that you're doing that for people. I wanted so much control originally, and then I was like, I give up. And so when I first got into the business, I've taken this Tony Robbins DISC assessment a number of times. I actually love psychology. And the first time that I ended up taking it, it said that I was a high I and then a high C, which would be like the lawyer brain, like very organized, like making sure, like I loved my paperwork being organized, all this stuff and like systems and whatever. And then I took the test, I think a couple years later, and it ended up having the C fell away. And I'm like, I think that's because I got burnt out on trying so hard to make it a certain way. It's just not possible, especially like in real estate anyway.
It's not. Yeah, it's funny. I love that you're into psychology. I was actually a child development major and I love psychology as well. I do a Hogan assessment on all of my agents. So similar to the disc, but we do light side, dark side. So looking at where they're normally when they're not stressed out and then where they are when they're stressed out. And so I use that to help them rebound a lot quicker and understand some of their own personal warning signs, so to speak, when they're slipping into that dark side, that stress area, and how do we get out of that and move through it. But yeah, I love that. I was a very high D. My husband takes very prideful credit that I am no longer all D and I'm more of a blend now. So he's I balanced you out. I'm like, yes, dear.
It's hard to live in that. Like, I have a lot of, because in the disc assessment, it has like a combination of all of them, right? So yeah,
yes,
I have a quite strong D as well in some aspects of life. And it's a hard place to be. And same with that C personality, really that's also a really hard place to be. And I think you can only sustain it for so long. I think that it makes sense that you're like, yeah, I'm feeling more balanced for sure. And especially if somebody else is able to take some control of things in a partner, for sure. Because if you have everybody else who's just la-di-da, like, then I feel like the D part of your personality gets stronger because you have to show up in order for things to get done. So it's nice that he was able to take some of the hard get shit done stuff off your plate then, so you don't have to
and just do it. I know, it's funny, we laugh. My sister-in-law, she's not technically my sister-in-law, she's still a girlfriend, but we basically consider her a sister-in-law. She's part of the family now. But she realized, she's, oh, you want people to make decisions. I'm like, yes, about easy things like where are we going for dinner and stuff? Absolutely. I make thousands of decisions every single day. If someone can tell me this is the time you need to show up and where, I am the happiest person in the world. So I love her because she recognized that. And so now she'll send a text. Yeah, she's, here you go. This is where we're going for dinner. Does this time work? I'm like, yes, we will see you there.
Oh my God.
Marry her. Do it.
There was a point actually a handful of years ago that everyone was asking me something. It's all day, every day. And then I came home and it was like, what do you want to have for dinner? And I'm like, it's already 7:00. Like, why am I deciding what we're going to have for dinner? And then when I tell you how to make it. And anyways. And I was like, I'm going to set up an Ask Skyleigh booth because there's no point in me going anywhere and trying to do anything because there's so many questions that stop me from actually moving anything in my life forward. Anyways, and I remember saying that and I was like, this is crazy. But yeah, I agree. I'm like, the more things people can take off my plate, the better. Because otherwise, I'm great. Like, and I have a hard time in some group projects too. Because if people aren't moving things forward, I try and let them, I'm like, nope, I don't need this. I don't want the responsibility. I'm the person who is here to support. But then as things are floundering and not happening, I'm like, okay, can we get this stuff on the go? So I have to like really put in my, nope, you guys are doing it.
Yeah, it's hard. And having that patience and learning to hold people accountable without just taking over for them, that is something that I have spent a lot of time working on. I'm very proud. Feel like I have gotten to a much better place in my 40s than I was in my 20s and 30s with that. But it's a work in progress. And it is hard because a lot of times your instinct is, oh, just give me it. I can just get this done. Right. And then all of a sudden you realize you've created that behavior. And so they know I'm just going to procrastinate long enough because she'll take care of it. I don't really want to do this. It's fine.
It's just crazy. I love that we're on the same wavelength with that stuff though. I'm curious to know, because you've obviously brought on a number of agents and kind of like nurtured them and all that stuff. So what is probably like the biggest misconception that you've seen with new agents, and how do you kind of get them to overcome kind of the hiccups that they've run into?
I think the biggest thing, kind of twofold, is one, they think real estate is going to be easy and they're just going to show up and make a ton of money. And it's going to be this glamorous lifestyle like you see on Selling Sunset or whatever, all those shows. And that always I find very comical because I'm like, it is grunt work. Some of the stuff that you need to do in this business to get it done, it's not pretty at all. So I think that's one of the big things. I think the other thing is especially, and I'm seeing a shift in this because I'm seeing much younger people get into the business as their first career versus those of us that it's a second or third kind of thing. I think it's really interesting looking at the mindset differences between those people in those stages. Those of us that it was a second and third career, I think it's a lot harder for us to get out of our own way because we're so used to being the expert at something. It really screws with your confidence quite a bit. And your mental capacity to push through that uncomfortableness, I think, makes a difference between someone who's going to drop out and someone who's going to succeed. Whereas a new agent, I think their mindset over their obstacle is, okay, I've got to accept that I'm going to make pretty much nothing for probably the first 90 to 180 days. And I've got to be okay with that, right? And I've got to be okay with falling on my face and just getting out there and trying something new. I think a lot of them think I'm just going to show up on social media and then I'm going to have clients. And I'm like, it's a long game, right? It's very unlikely that someone's going to happen to see your reel and be like, that's my agent. Let's go buy that $2 million house today. So that's probably the biggest thing that I see.
I find that so interesting. And while you were saying it, it was making me think about how I feel like ignorance is bliss. Like the people who are just into the industry and they haven't had a career before. And they're like, no matter what I'm going to do, I'm going to be uncomfortable. And you're just doing what you're told because you don't know any better, which is actually a gift, because the people who have been in places before, they're like, you get comfortable being comfortable and then you don't want to go outside your comfort zone. And it is one of those careers where you're constantly pushed outside your comfort zone. So it actually makes sense what you're saying, that it would fall back into being like, well, I'm just going to eject and go back to what I was doing before. It's safer there.
Yeah.
So
it's one of the things I try and own as a team leader constantly. So for example, I'm not a fan of social media. Like literally, if it disappeared tomorrow, I would probably be the happiest person in America. I do not understand the desire for people to post and see all this stuff and whatever else. But I'm also intelligent enough to understand it's not going anywhere and I just need to adopt and get on board with it. And so I've been dabbling, we will say, over the last 10 years. And so coming into this year, each of my agents, I am pushing them in a really big way this coming year. And so I knew I was asking a lot for them from their personal growth. And so I volunteered and committed for myself. I was like, I'm going to do more social media. I'm going to put myself out there more. I'm going to get in front of the camera instead of behind it more. And I'm going to do something that makes me horribly uncomfortable to make sure that you guys see this can be done, right? You just have to commit to it and then go hold yourself accountable and get it out there and do it.
Yeah, it's funny because I have obviously quite a bit of social presence out there, and I'm actually not a huge fan of social media either. I won't let my daughter, she's going to be 11 this year, she really wants it because kids in her school have it. I'm like, nope, not happening. And even for me, when I go look at my like screen time for like how long I've been on different things, I'm on social media like 23 minutes a day. But it doesn't look like I've been on it 23 minutes a day. It looks like I've been on it for hours a day for how much stuff is there. But I'm like, I'm actually not a huge fan either. And I'm like, thank God for my assistants, because you do need the social presence, right? Like, we're not ignorant that you need it.
Yes.
But I also don't want to be absorbed by it. I don't think it's good for your brain by any means.
Agreed.
It's just, it's one of those things you can, like you said, you're leading by example. You can do it. You don't have to be absorbed by it. But on the outside looking in, most people probably think that we are eat, sleep, breathing social media. And that's just not the case. Like, I can post my timestamp on my social platforms for everyone to see, and I think they'd be shocked. You don't
like, I've got this down. Yeah. Got it dialed in.
You mentioned like learning from other people's mistakes and stuff like that, which I think is beautiful. And that's one thing that I always ask people on the podcast too, is what have you made mistakes on and you're like, this is how I grew from that?
I would say the biggest mistake that I made was not really dialing in to my systems early on. And it's something that I preach over and over again. I think my agents are probably sick of me hearing me say it, but I knew how to use them. We had systems, I did it when it was convenient. And I know I lost business early on because I wasn't as dialed in and committed to them and consistent as I should have been. And so that was a mistake that I learned from pretty early, just seeing missed opportunities. And I was like, that's a lot of money. At the end of my second year, I sat down and I went through my database and I called out the people that I had started a communication with. We had gone somewhere, and then I got busy with something else, and I just dropped the ball because I didn't have my systems dialed in to make sure that follow-up was consistent. And when I added that up, it was horrifying. And I was like, okay, I'm going to fix this. I'm not doing this again. I'm not going to let this happen. And I'm not perfect, right? I still drop the ball occasionally. I'm a human, just like everyone else. I feel confident, though, that I'm doing everything I can to avoid that happening, whether it's getting an assistant and putting somebody else in place to be a backstop for me, but just making sure that those systems are really dialed in and they're easily replicable for all of my agents to go ahead and adopt as well.
Yeah, I love that. What do you think your like favorite system would be then? I have a couple that I really love, and I'm curious to know what your favorite systems are.
I am a little bit obsessed with Monday.com. It's probably my favorite system out there. My colleague Jess introduced me to it a few years ago. I am a huge spreadsheet and statistics nerd. And so Monday.com is spreadsheets, but with fun animations and a lot of automation into it. And so being able to take that and integrate AI into it and get those automations flowing, but then also just there's something very cathartic about just seeing that checklist like that done. It gives you a little ta-da. Right now we're in December, so I have little reindeer dancing and snowmen dancing when I get something done. It is very rewarding. So yes, I really like that. But the system just makes so much sense to my brain because it allows me to organize everything in one place. And I think that was my biggest struggle early on is like I had a program for every different aspect of my business. And I was like, I don't even know what I have anymore. There's too much. So calling everything down and getting it all into that one place, that was a huge win for me. And that keeps me really excited about that platform.
I like that you were talking about it being like repeatable as well. Cause I had one of my coaches say this to me. They're like, if you're not like duplicatable, then you're not going to be able to grow and expand. So yeah, I like that you're repeatable. So it's easy for other people to follow too.
Yeah. Your coach sounds a little nicer than mine. Mine said, if you get hit by a bus tomorrow and someone can't step in and replace you, then you don't have a business. And I was like, okay, then. I was like, all right.
Yeah, that's a little.
So I feel like now if I get hit by a bus, they'll be just fine. It'll continue and no one will really ever know. So it's fine.
And continue on. Oh my God. I love it. And I love my CRM so much. Like I eat, sleep, and breathe in the CRM because it keeps everything organized. Who you need to talk to, all of that kind of stuff. And I think that's one of the other things that people don't in the business when they're starting, don't pay attention to. And I'm like, how do you think you're going to be able to grow your business when you don't know who you've talked to, when you talked to them last? You don't remember their dog's name. Like you don't remember what they're looking for. As time goes on and it ends up compounding to being a large database, I'm like, if you don't have a CRM, which I'm shocked that some people don't, but yeah.
A lot of people just use notepad and paper or an iPad and the notes app. And I'm like, it's a good, quick and easy if you've got to jot stuff down, but it's not a system. And it's not something that really works well. We use Follow Up Boss for our CRM. And I love the ability to help my agents out. So I can step in, they're like, I'm struggling with this lead. I can step in and see the conversation really easily. Okay, hey, here's what we can tweak. Let's redirect. Let's go in this, let's fix that up. I also love that when someone's on vacation, it means they can actually be on vacation. Because if you're all using the CRM appropriately, you can step away and someone can easily step in and say, all right, I've got this, right? Skyleigh doesn't need to know that I'm on vacation right now and not even the one answering these questions about the properties. I can go ahead and handle this for my client. And so that I think is really a beautiful thing too, because I think a lot of us make that mistake of working 24/7 and it's not healthy or sustainable.
No, and that's one thing that I love about teams too, is that you need somebody who's there that can have your back so that you can take some time off. Like the burnout rate in our industry is massive. And I think it's really hard for us too to set expectation with our clients that we do need some time, but we also need to have the systems in place for them to still be taken care of. So I think there's a little bit of a disconnect between, I've had this happen before where agents are like, hey, I'm gone, so like we're gonna have to get this done now. And I'm like, oh, who's taking care of your stuff? I'll just communicate with them. And they're like, nobody. And I'm like, what do you mean nobody?
Yeah. You're like, then you're not really gone. Yeah, you're not checked out.
Yeah. I think that there's power to teams and having, like you said, your system so that somebody can pick up what you have going on, right? You have these clients that are going to need the support. So I love that it's organized enough for somebody just to carry on. Because we do need.
Yeah, I mean, my right half, she heads out on vacation tomorrow and she's gone through the rest of the year. We have 13 closings between now and the end of the year that have to happen. And I'm like, it's fine. We've got it. Go. Enjoy your cruise. Have a great time. Everything's in Monday. So there's no questions that are going to pop up that I need to reach out to her and be like, what do I do?
Yeah, no kidding. And especially if you have all your systems in place and everything's dialed in, it's not even just like the questions and stuff that you're talking about. It's like there's probably like checklists and making sure everything's been handed over to the lawyers and making sure that they understand what they need to be moving and when they're getting keys and all of that stuff organized. You don't want it just to be like putting out fires along the way. You can't take over someone's business if someone's just operating by putting out fires.
Exactly. No, you've got to be proactive in this business. And I think that just goes with communication and, again, being prepared. It's the same process from under contract to close. It's the same process every time. So you can automate a lot of those things. Like we have a lot of templates and everything can be applied. And yes, there's little differences here and there. But once you find someone that property, it should be pretty smooth sailing, right? Even if the inspection report comes back and there's issues, everything's negotiable. Everything is workable because you know exactly what you need to do, right? Here's the vendor list I go to. This is how I get my answers. This is what happens. There's always a solution. And I think when you have that stuff dialed in, it frees up your mind to think outside of the box and get more creative when you do have those nuances that come up. You're like, ooh, okay, what do I do with this? We have one right now that we need to close it before the end of the year for this client. And there is an HOA violation. And we needed to have a survey, and good luck getting a surveyor out between now and the end of the year. And so it was like, all right, let's figure out how much is the survey going to cost. I called into favor with our surveyor and I'm like, okay, I know you can't physically go out there, but can you at least look at the Polaris and tell me realistically, is this over the property line or not? And he was like, yeah, this one's really obvious. It's definitely over. I'm like, okay, great. Thanks. That's all I need to know. Contractor, how much does it cost to move the fence? And now we're like, hey, we're going to do a reduction. We're still closing this out. We will assume the violation and we will take care of this in the new year when we can get a surveyor out there. It's like everything else is taken care of. So I had the freedom and flexibility to do what I needed to get it done. And I think that's what comes with having those processes in place.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And I know like we're talking about, again, like the systems and processes, but what habits do you feel like support like the long-term growth and getting those systems in place? Because I think that we always think about this huge picture of the end goal, but there's all of these small, measurable daily activities that we do in order to actually get us there. So what would your advice be to agents who are like, have these goals for all these systems and stuff and wanting that, but then the daily activities and habits that they can do in order to actually get there?
I think the biggest thing is, right, that perspective of this is a business and you are the owner of it, right? And so you've got to carve out time a lot. We talk a lot about blocking time for lead generation, right? And those income producing activities. And I 1000% believe that should be an everyday thing. I also believe we need to carve out undisturbed time to work on our business though too. And so my advice is, first of all, take it small, right? This stuff is not created overnight. This has been a process that I have been building for nearly 10 years. So it didn't happen all at once. I also think the easiest thing for me to do was to write notes. As I was going through my day-to-day, I would take a week and I'd make notes and say, okay, what are some of the things that I feel like I'm repeating and I'm doing multiple times over and over again? And then I would take a step back and I'd look at my list and say, okay, what on this can I go ahead and either automate, right? And now I'm revisiting that whole list over this past 2 years. I'm like, what can I automate using AI? So it's a constant revision, but it's also, all right, can I delegate some of this stuff to somebody else? Do I have to keep this in-house, right? Or can I, like a closing coordinator? I will never work without a closing coordinator. I don't understand why people don't use closing coordinators. I'm like, no, give up control. It's okay. You're not that good at this. I promise you, they're going to be way better, and it's going to allow you to scale and grow so much more quickly. There's no way I could do the volume that I do on my own. It would be impossible. I wouldn't be able to sleep. But so I think it's knowing when you need help and when that's a person or a system. And then once you've decided on that system, take the time to learn it. I think a lot of people switch CRMs like they do brokerages. And I'm like, it's not the brokerage's fault and it's not the CRM's fault most of the time. You have to take the time to understand the system and then figure out how you can put it to work for you. I think we get caught up a lot of times in the gurus, right, that we watch, and they're doing 18,000 different automated campaigns and this, that, and the other. I'm like, do you need that?
Yeah.
Where is your business at? And what do you need from that? But I think really the biggest thing is just paying attention and taking a short list of what am I doing over and over, and how can I turn this into something that's very simple. Easiest thing, create an email template. Every time you go under contract, you have a closing team email that needs to go out. So create a template that you can just plug the details into, right? Same thing with offers. Every time you send in an offer, yes, you can add a few lines in to tweak it so it's personalized to the agent you're sending it to, but otherwise it should have the same information. So create a template. Things like that I think a lot of people overlook, and they think it needs to be complicated. And it's not. It's really the easy, simple stuff that I think we end up spending the most time doing. It's the busy work, right?
It like compounds to take up so much of your time and your energy. Like, you don't think it's going to be a whole lot, but then, yeah, when you do it multiple times a day, it compounds to being like a big time suck. And that time that you're using for those things takes away from, like you said, building your business. And
yeah, I use this example. When I first started, it used to take me close to an hour to write one offer, which I cringe even thinking about that now. But I just remember reading through, and now I can knock one out in about 15 minutes tops. And I'm like, okay, but how did I do that? I took the offer docs, I created templates where I could out of it. There's a lot of information that's the same every time over. Your brokerage is not changing on those agency agreements. So pre-fill a lot of that stuff.
Yeah.
Your name, your license, all of those things, pre-filling as much as you can and then saving that. And then again, those template emails, there's different things you can do if you look at it to just get efficient. Then it's also know, okay, these are the steps. So I am neurotic. I have a checklist for pretty much everything.
Yeah, me too.
But I literally have, it's okay, submitting an offer. Step 1, go to the MLS, look for the following red flags. Are these any things we need to alert the clients to? Check off these documents. Like, it's just a step-by-step guide. And eventually it becomes automatic, right? When we do it enough. But when you're starting out, I think a lot of the delay is in not knowing what you don't know and trying to figure out what comes next, and then sitting there in panic as you worry, did I miss something?
Oh my gosh, it's such good advice for everyone listening, because like, it is so hard to juggle all of the tasks and wear all the hats that we're supposed to wear in this business. So yeah, there was a book that I ended up reading. It was called Do Less by Kate Northrup. And it was amazing. And it pretty much talked about everything that you're talking about. And it's just focus on the thing that you're really good at, delegate the rest, and like automate everything that's like repeatable and should be like automatic. Like something you don't put a lot of brain work into. We carry so much information on our heads, and like women do carry a lot of information in their heads. And then I'm like, I have a hard time sleeping, and that's probably one reason, is that I'm like, I have a million tabs open in my brain all the time. So yeah, as I've been getting,
I sleep with a notepad next to my bed so I can just write it down and roll back over. It's bad. It is.
Yeah. Funny. The things you have to deal with is but I've been systemizing things as well, and it does take a lot, like brain power off. Our brains should not.
It does.
Our brains should not be as full as they are. Like we have for a reason. So I love all this advice, and I'm so happy with our conversation today. I appreciate you coming on the podcast so much. I think there's so much good information for people getting into the business, or even people who have grown in the business for a while, but maybe just feel like they're on this hamster wheel and they just don't know where to go from. Lots of really good stuff. And I'm curious to know, like, if anyone wanted to reach out to you in North Carolina, or maybe is in North Carolina wanting to go to a team that kind of takes care of their agents like you do, like how can they find you?
The best thing to do is to email me, Alison@lodestonerealestate.com. You can find me on Instagram at Lodestone REI. I have somebody managing that now this year, so you will actually get a response to those DMs in a very timely fashion, unlike me who had calendar reminders to go on and check. So we will have that. I would say those are probably the two best ways to reach me. I am licensed in North Carolina, South Carolina, and Georgia. So we are looking to expand our footprint in those areas. So if people are interested, we are definitely open to having that conversation.
Cool. Thank you so much. And I will put all of the contact information in the show notes.
Yeah. Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it. And I hope your son feels better.
Your infections are the worst.
That's a wrap on this episode of Real Estate Real Talk. Whether you're an agent building your business or a buyer or seller trying to get the real story, thanks for being here. If this episode gave you clarity, confidence, or just something to talk about, I'd love for you to follow, rate, and share the show. It helps more people find these conversations. If you have questions or want to connect, head over to SkyleighMcCallum.com or come hang out with me on Instagram. Thanks for listening, and I hope you catch the next episode on Real Estate Real Talk.